Welcome to the session Food Constituents, the block 2 of the course. This block consists of 4 units. Unit 3 is carbohydrate and lipids. The unit 4 is proteins, enzymes and water. Unit 5 is vitamins and minerals, and unit 6 is food additives. Now the question comes in mind, what is the importance of food constituents? Like if you recall, Dr. Sidhu mentioned, the food constituents gives us the nutritional profile and in preparation of balanced diet. To give you an example, if you have 10 rupees, you want to spend for some your nutrition, whether you want to take milk, a glass of milk, or you want to take an egg, or you want to take a fruit juice. Now how do you decide this? We know, if you know the constituents of the milk, if you know the constituents of the juice, if you know the constituents of the egg, then you will be able to decide properly that what is required for you, or for your mother, or for young children, and what is required for the balanced food. So the knowledge of food constituents helps us in giving the nutritional status of the food and in preparation of the balanced diet. The other importance of food constituents is because constituents undergo changes. The carbohydrate goes into simpler form, proteins also changes into simpler form. So during the post-harvest handling, during the processing and during the storage, these constituents undergo changes. So we should know what type of changes they take place. There could be some good changes, there could be some bad changes also. Now this course, this program, where we are going for preservation and preparation of value added products, naturally processing is an integrated part of the things. Now there should be proper selection of the temperature and combination. To give you an example, if you take milk and you boil it, the vitamin C losses will take place. So up to what composition, up to what temperature and time combination you should heat it, that vitamin losses are minimum. Similarly, these processing parameters help. For selection of the processing parameter, we need to know the constituents. So for nutritional point of view, for functional properties, for food safety and for legal requirement, we want to know the processing parameters, then the food constituents knowledge is must. And as the food additives also it is used. Now this is the importance of the food constituents. That's why their knowledge is must. So we say the food constituent is for the nutrition purposes, for understanding the changes which are taking place in the constituent during processing and storage, and particularly for selection of processing parameters. I give you example from nutritional angle of point. Similarly for functional properties also, and for safety point of view. Safety is very important. Like you see the milk which is available into the market is pasteurized milk. What does pasteurized milk does is that it makes sure that all pathogenics are not present in the milk. So food safety is there. Then the legal requirements are also there. If you see you are taking the type of food, fruit and which any product is there, there are certain legal requirements are there that this should contain minimum of this much of fat percentage, this much of sugar percentage. If you are going to launch as an entrepreneur a new product, you must know that what is legal requirement, whether you have to add up more sugar or you have to add up more juice into this product. So the knowledge of food constituents helps us in deciding these factors. Now the constituents we know, so we'll take one by one the constituent. The major constituent is the carbohydrate is there. Now what is the carbohydrate? As a chemically we say it consists of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, and it is the ratio of the hydrogen and oxygen is same as in the water. To give you an example, simple example is glucose. The other examples are particularly in cereals, starches are there, the cane sugar, the milk sugar, all these examples are of the carbohydrates are there. Then cellulose of wood and paper is also an example of carbohydrate. Technically they are known as polyhydroxy aldehydes or ketones. They are the two groups. They could be aldehydes or they could be ketones. Like glucose is an example of polyhydroxy aldehydes, and the fructose is an example of ketone is there. And in simple terms, these are also known as saccharides, and we use the word OSC suffix, that is fructose. The fruit sugar is normally known as fructose, milk sugar is known as lactose, and the malt sugar is known as the maltose is there. So, and the chemically you should know CnH2ON is chemically we represent this. So this is about the carbohydrates is there. Now they are further divided into three groups: monosaccharides, oligosaccharides, and polysaccharides. Now first thing is, what is monosaccharides? Monosaccharides means simple sugars, and in varies that the carbon numbers will be between 2 to 10 molecules is the number is there. Particularly in reference to our fruit and vegetable course, or in food, normally the carbon molecules are from 3 to 10, and more particularly pentose and hexoses, that is carbon molecules is 5 or 6 is the major number is there. Now the common example of I mentioned, there are polyhydroxyaldoses and ketoses. Aldose examples are glucose, mannose, and galactose, and ketose examples are fructose and sorbose. They are neutral, they are crystallizable substances, readily soluble in water and sweet. And one of the other property which they show is they are able to rotate the plane of the polarized light, and they could be either rotated on a right side or left side. So we write the word dextrorotatory or levorotatory is there. So the glucose is we write as a dextro, and fructose is a levo or left rotate, it rotates the plane of light, and we represent it by minus is there. So this is the monosaccharides or simple sugars are there, one of the example. Then we come to the oligosaccharides. It is a combination of 2 to 10 monosaccharides per molecule of the things. So when 2 to 10 monosaccharides are present, they are known as the oligosaccharides are there. So when they combine together, they release the water molecule, and they give the examples of disaccharides are milk, lactose. You must have heard many people say, I cannot take milk, I am having lactose intolerance, that they are not able to. So this lactose is a example of disaccharides. It made of two glucose, one is two monosaccharides, glucose and galactose makes the lactose. Similarly, sucrose is a glucose and fructose, and maltose is an example of two molecules of glucose is there. And raffinose, which is present in the sugar beet, is an example of trisaccharides. It is a polymer of glucose, fructose, and galactose is there. So this group is known as oligosaccharides is there. Now particularly the sweetness level is important in these type of oligosaccharides. I mentioned in fruit and vegetables, which is for our concern in this course, mainly monosaccharides and disaccharides are present. So what is the sweetness level is there? For our comparative purpose, the sugar sweetness we have kept as 100, and then we have given a table. Fructose is 173 or 1 is there, glucose is 74, corn syrup is 30, honey is 97. You are aware that in market some the artificial sweeteners are available known as saccharin, so its sweetness is very high. So these are the sweetness of the thing, sweetness of the different type of the sweetness is there. Then we come to the polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are the polymers of the simple monosaccharides, that is many molecules of the monosaccharides are there of mannose, hexose or pentose, and their characteristics are they are not sweet and they are not insoluble in water. And the example of polysaccharides are starch and pectin are good example. Now what is the starch is there? Starch, it consists of amylose and amylopectin is there. Now amylose is a straight chain molecules, and whereas amylopectin is a branched molecule is there. It is insoluble in cold water. Now the important thing is starch, it starts swelling at its gelatinisation temperature. Once you start heating the starch molecule in any starch, it becomes in water, it becomes viscous. On cooling it may form a gel, and when you keep cool it also, there is a property known as retrogradation, where there is a formation of precipitation is there. To give you a common example, the bread will be have more shelf life in the room temperature as compared to in the fridge. Normally it is advised that we should not keep the bread into the fridge, because there the chances of this property, retrogradation of the starch, take place on cooling, and its spoilage could be more. So it is always recommended that keep in the outside, and it will be safe for the 4 or 5 days. Now these are the properties. Now when we develop a new product, so we should know about the constituents, role of the starch, and this that. Then starch provides many functional properties for the food applications is there. So this is the stuff. Then the important group within the polysaccharides is pectin. It is galactouronic acid. Now it undergoes the changes during the ripening, and that's why it becomes the more the changes in ripening are the fruit, the change in the texture, the change in the taste is because of this. What we say softening of fruit is taking place because of the breakdown of the pectin is taking place. Now this also plays an important role in gelling. When we manufacture jam, jelly and marmalade, the composition of pectin plays an important role. If you are preparing a fruit jam and in natural sources pectin is not coming, or if you are trying a new fruit for preparation of jam, the jam will not get a structure. So the presence of pectin is must for this purpose is there. Now for a good jelly, there should be good composition of the sugar content, pH, and the amount of the pectin is also required. What are the sources? Apple, lemon and citrus fruits are good sources. That's why whenever the jam are prepared, apple or papaya or these type of the things which are the good source of the pectin should be always added. So this is about the importance of the pectin is there. Then the other example of the polysaccharides is the gum. Gum is also a polysaccharides. Now gums can be also available from the microbial sources also. Now there are two types of plant gums and microbial gums. Examples we have given: guar gum, locust bean gums, gum arabica, and alginates are the example of the plant sources, whereas the dextrin and xanthan gums are the source of the microbial. So now these things, because they give the polysaccharides, or these gives the functional properties. Like Dr. Sindhu was giving an example of ice cream, for giving the good, when it contains water, so that the ice crystals doesn't form big, we want to add up some stabilizers or gums. This is an example of alginates or sodium alginates are added, so that the water molecules will not grow big or they will not flow. So these are the purpose of the using gum and of the things is there. Then we come to the another important source, and the constituent is the lipid is there. The carbohydrate is also important for the giving the calorific value, and lipids because it gives the higher amount, 9 kilocalories of energy we get from the lipids is there. Now their characteristics are, they are organic substances, they are insoluble in water, but they are soluble in organic solvents like ether and benzene. We classify into main 3 groups. Fat and oils is one group, then waxes and phospholipids are there, but all they contain the fatty acid. So the important is fatty acids. Now the fatty acids are 2 types, saturated and unsaturated fatty acids are there, and example of saturated is palmitic acid, lauric acid and stearic acid, and unsaturated fatty acids are oleic acid and linoleic acid. Unsaturated mean they contain the double bond. Double bond mean the carbon molecules are not completely balanced, and they could be reason for going for oxidation is there. So if the more number of unsaturated fatty acids are present there, the food can go more easily oxidation. But nutritionally, some of these unsaturated fatty acid like linoleic acid and linoleic acid are required for our body purposes are also there. So we have to make a balance when we see the balanced diet, that we should contain a good a minimum amount of fatty acid which is required by our body, but if any oil which contains more number of unsaturated fatty acids, then its shelf life will be very low is there, right? Then what are the properties for characterization of the fat and lipids? The important point is melting point, refractive index, smoke point, flash point and fire point. These property helps us in characterization of the fat, like this, the fat from the milk, the fat from the sunflower, or fat from the coconut, or the fat from the groundnut or mustard. It will be varying from these things are there. Then there are certain, we call them the like Richard-Missel value, saponification value, iodine number. Iodine number gives us number of unsaturated fatty acids are there. Richard-Missel values helps us in giving the number of volatile fatty acids are present there. So as I mentioned, unsaturated fatty acids are responsible for density development, and we have to add antioxidants for their prevention. But certain unsaturated fatty acids are required for by our body purpose. They are type of essential fatty acids. So the food must be present, the food must be provided by these unsaturated fatty acids. Then come the other sources, the other important constituents is the protein. The importance to the, we say it is the top position is given to the protein only when we say the food, because it constitutes the main structure of our body or even the animal body. So the any food, when we judge them, we say that how much protein it is going to provide is the importance. The protein importance is also because the growth and development of body and its complete formation depends upon the proteins only. The other examples, the other importance is they also provide enzymes and hormones which are required for the functioning of our body systems. Like we said in the fruit and vegetables, we said food physiology is there. For human physiology also there are many reactions, processes which takes place, like digestion of the system, the respiration and other physiological changes or processes takes place simultaneously. For those we need enzymes and hormones. So proteins are also sources of these enzymes and hormones also. Now what does proteins constituents? The amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. Like we said, in the carbohydrates we have the glucose, the sucrose. Glucose is the main constituent. Then we fatty acids for the lipids. For proteins we call them the amino acids are the building blocks of it. Now proteins contains amino group and it will also contain the carboxyl group, and the bond which forms is known as the peptide bond is there. We classify the proteins into three groups. One is known, first is simple proteins. What does simple proteins mean? Once you will hydrolyze them, they will yield the amino acids only. Like, to give you an example, albumin and globulin. These are the example of simple proteins. Then we come to the conjugated proteins. Conjugated proteins, in this amino acid is present, then some non-protein material is present like lipids, nucleic acid and carbohydrate, like phosphoproteins, lipoproteins. These are known as the conjugated proteins are there. And derived proteins are they are obtained by chemical or enzymatic method by some process. In the sense they are basically protein is got changed due to some chemical or enzymatic method. Like protein hydrolysis are the examples of derived proteins are there. So this is how we classify. The important change which takes place in the protein is the denaturation of the protein is there. What is denaturation? It is a type of uncoiling. The proteins are present in a coiled structure. So uncoiling takes place. There is no breakage of the covalent bonds, but there is a change in structure is there. To give you an example is when you take egg and you boil it. When you boil it becomes hard. So there is what does it has happened? There is a denaturation of protein has taken place, right? There is no. So this is an example of denaturation of protein is there. The other example you take from the milk. Now when we take the milk contains, as you know, the casein and the whey proteins are the major component. When you take example I am giving of the paneer. If you take milk and you make a paneer from without heating it, right? What will happen is the paneer will contain less of the whey proteins, but when you heat the milk, the whey proteins get denatured. They also get associated with the casein components. So this type of protein will paneer will contain more of the whey proteins also. So these are the examples of denaturation. So this denaturation depends upon the heat, pH, salt, and these things are there. There is some loss of biological activity, and there is some change in the physical properties also in the denaturation process. So when we take the protein, right, so there is going to be denaturation. So as a food scientist or technologist, we have to make sure that there is a minimum of denaturation is there. We mentioned in the fat and lipids, there should be minimum of rancidity is there, but when you see the processing, there should be minimum of denaturation of the processing is there. Along with this is there is a known as protein is known as the non-enzymatic browning, which is also known as Maillard browning is there. It is actually reaction between the amino acids and the hydroxyl groups of the sugar. The non-enzymatic browning can be desirable also, or it could be undesirable also. The brown crust formed on the bread or cake is a type of desirable browning is there, but if you take in the sterilized milk or those things, it is a undesirable browning is there. So protein, the one I give example, it has a tendency to get denatured. The other characteristics which is that it can go for the Maillard browning also is there. So how to control this? You can control this by reducing the reaction rate. If the things, I mean, if the amino group and hydroxyl group don't come together, or somehow the rate of reaction can slow down, the browning can be slowed down. When we are discussing amino acid, a term is known as essential amino acids, which we must know, because if you are going to develop now, and the trend is to develop health foods or healthy foods, so then we have to develop we may like to add up some amino acid or nutritional foods. So these are the essential amino acids which cannot be synthesized in body. It has to be provided into the food. These are the 9 amino acids are there, which are the essential amino acids which are present in there. The proteins, then the next is the enzymes which are present into there. They are called the biocatalyst. In the sense, they are present in all the biological system, and they will act on a substrate and produce some substance which will be good or which could be bad enzyme. It is used for in the beverages for fermentation. This amylase enzyme is used as there. So the enzymes are basically proteins in nature, and all the curd, yogurt, it is basically based on the microbial, the action of the microbial and particularly their enzymes, that we get the simpler compounds are there. These enzymes are specific to the particular substrate is there, and high degree of specificity is there. And now the trend is to go for immobilized enzyme, that the enzymes, they are sported onto the water insoluble sport, and so that the activity is prolonged and is for a longer period is there. The other important constituent is the water. Now water plays an important role in the food spoilage is there. The term which we use is the water activity. Now what is water activity? It is the ratio of moisture content of the product and the relative humidity of the air surrounding it. In simple terms, if you are low at the dry products have a low water activity, and all those products which are the shelf life very poor, they have the high water activity. Particularly our fruit jellies, our syrups, and they are the intermediate moisture foods. The moisture is in the range of 20 to 40%, and the water activity is above 5 is there. So if you want to have the longer shelf life product, so the water activity should be as minimum as possible. Now water quality plays very important role, because water is an ingredient which is used as a raw material. It is also used for processing, for generating steam, for cleaning raw material, for cleaning plant and equipment. If you recall, recently there has been controversy about the cola drinks. It has been, the cola drink people's manufacturer says it is because of the water quality and not of our combination or the product manufacturing problem. So water plays, as a fruit and vegetable entrepreneur, you just see that water quality which you are using is also important. We should use the potable water. What does the potable mean? It should contain no bacteria. It should not be, they should be clear. It should be colorless. It should be free from the odor and bad taste material is there. The very important thing, we have been knowing this the hardness of water is there. The hardness of water is basically because of the salts of the calcium and magnesium, and if it is colloids and sulfates, they give permanent hardness, and temporary hardness is due to the bicarbonates. And we express the hardness in terms of the parts per million of calcium carbonate which is present into there. And this is the classification which is there. If the calcium carbonate is less than 50, it is known as soft water. If the ppm of calcium carbonate is above 200, it is very hard. So for your the plant or for these things, the soft the calcium carbonate component content should be less. This was about the chemical. They would say the hardness is there, and I mentioned you should use potable water. There is another aspect is the microbiological is there. We must ensure that the coliform are not present into the water, and if you have the water from the deep well source, there is a less chance of showing the coliform is there. So the microbiological quality also should be tested. And how do we test these are the characteristics. Physical characteristics mean you just check the color, odor, taste and turbidity. For chemical characteristics, see the total solids, organic matter, these are the component, alkalinity, pH. And for microbiological examination, plate count. So when you are going to set up a new factory or place of location, you must see the water quality in that area, because it is going to have an important impact on your product. The other important constituents is the vitamins. This is particularly important for fruit and vegetables, because when we say fruit and vegetables are called protective foods, it is because of the vitamins and minerals. And particularly for our course, this minerals and vitamins are more important than sugars are more important, because the lipids are very less present into the fruits and vegetables are there. Now vitamins are organic substances, and we group them into fat soluble vitamins and then the water soluble vitamins. The fat soluble vitamins are 4 main vitamins: vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E and vitamin K is there. Now vitamin A, we know vitamin A has been associated with the night blindness, so it helps in the normal vision, and it also provides resistance power to the body is there. That it is present in the green leafy vegetables, carrot, mango and other yellow colored fruits. They all contains the vitamin A. Vitamin D is about the bone formation, and it also promote absorption of calcium, phosphorus and this thing. The rickets, as you know, is the vitamin D is there. Now vitamin D is not present in our fruit and vegetables, so we have not mentioned. We have only listed out particularly in reference to the fruit and vegetables which is there. Vitamin E is essential for normal reproduction is there, and vitamin K is present for helps in blood clotting is there, because it increases the prothrombin level in the blood is there. Water soluble vitamins are there. Vitamin B1, thiamine, it causes the disease is known as beriberi is there. It is helpful for carbohydrate metabolism is there. Vitamin B2 is riboflavin, it regulates the function of insulin is there. Then niacin disease, it causes the disease Pelgira. Vitamin B6, it prevents dermatitis, degeneration of nerves, and it is particularly required for the growth of infants and functioning of hormones, and this is present into the leafy vegetables. That's why when the doctors also recommend to the children, you should give the leafy fruit, leafy vegetables should be given there. The winning foods are there. Then the water soluble vitamins also include pantothenic acid. It is the required for our hormone and the system. Then biotin is there, it assists in activity of many enzyme systems. Folic acid absence causes anemia, It is present in green leafy vegetables. Vitamin B12, it helps in maturation of red blood cells and functioning of bone marrow and nervous system. So B12 is there. Vitamin C is particularly important for fruit and vegetable processing. First thing is, the fruits and vegetables are good source of the vitamin C. What does they help? They help in formation of collagens and the osteoblasts, then carbohydrate and cholesterol metabolism, then absorption of iron, rapid healing of wounds. And you must be aware, if you recall the learning at the higher secondary levels, that disease called scurvy is prevented by the vitamin C is there. This is present in amla, orange, lemon, guava, cabbage. They are the good source. Why we say it is anti-protective? Because of the strong reducing property. Any food, if it has a strong reducing property, it helps the human system is there. But as a food processor, it is sensitive to temperature. If you heat too high any fruit and vegetable processing, you will be losing the vitamin C. So we have to take care that it is minimum loss during food processing, storage and cooking. So this is the importance you have to take. Then we come to the other minerals. Now minerals are inorganic in nature. Proteins, carbohydrates and fats are organic. Minerals are inorganic. They are also known as micronutrients. The body contains 24 minerals and they are to be supplied by diet. They are classified as macro and micro minerals. Phosphorus is required for the blood cells purposes. Similarly, there is importance for the sodium potassium chlorides also, because it for the stability to the body fluid. So this is the iron and copper we know required for the hemoglobin purpose. Iodine is required nowadays. You must have seen the advertisement for the quieter purpose. The iodized salt we should use is there. So this is the importance of the minerals. The other group which we add is then in the food constituents, which we cannot ignore, is the food additives. Now what are the food additives? Food additives are actually substances other than basic food stuff which is present in a food as a result of production, processing, storage or packaging. Now the term does not include the contaminants. They are added for specific functions. To explain more things, like preservative are an example of food additives, antioxidants are example of food, acidulants, neutralizers, coloring agents, flavoring agents, sweeteners, nutritional additives and miscellaneous nutritional additives. If you add up, these are the type of additives which are not present in the food stuff, but we add up either for processing purpose, for increasing the storage shelf life, or for giving some functional properties or health point properties. So these are the things. But there is a limit is there. Food additives we cannot add like anything we want. So what we call them as a maximum permissible limits are there by the legal bodies. Acceptable, we call them the term acceptable daily intake, which should be stipulated, which is required. Now we'll take one by one some of these things which are. The first is the preservatives are there. There are preservatives, we say class 1 preservatives. They are known as the natural preservatives, like common salt, sugar, dextrose, acetic acid, honey, vegetable oils. There is no restriction to their addition, right? You can add up these for the preservative is there, but as per the legal requirements is there. Now the other two is class 2 preservatives. They are the chemical source, like benzoic acid and salts, sulfuric acids and salts, nitrates, sorbic acids, lactic acids. But mainly for the food purpose, benzoates and sulfites are mostly used. And nowadays even sorbic acids have been also allied for fruit and vegetable processing. So these three class 2 preservatives could be given importance and have detailing more. Like salt, we know salt is in pickling example, when we prepare the pickle, we preserve use the salt is there. How does they preserve it? By reducing the water activity. That the microorganisms will not be able to grow into there. Now the microorganisms, the salt some microorganisms cannot can tolerate 1% salt level, they can tolerate, but certain very bad microorganisms can tolerate up to 13%. So this is the depending upon the type of food, the type of the organism which will be grown, so we can use the salt. Similarly, acetic acid is there, and acetic acid is also, it is more effective at lower pH, and 1 to 2% acetic acid is sufficient. Similarly, sugar, it reduces the water activity and it controls the growth of the microorganisms are there. Now, when we select the preservatives, how do we select this? First thing is, we have to see that what type, in this type of food, what type of microorganisms are going, and what is the effectiveness level of that preservatives against that spoilage organism is there. So we should also know about the characteristics of the common spoilage organism associated with the product is there. Then physicochemical properties of both the preservative and the product is there. Then the pH is also important. Then the safety and legal requirement of the preservative. These are the things are there. The benzoic acid is mainly effective for yeast and mold, can be controlled by using 0.05 to 1% is there. They are more effective at low pH is there, and it is used in squashes, syrups, fruit juices, jams is there. And we use the word GRAS, that this is generally recognized as safe purpose, and it is mainly sodium benzoate is used for the preservation. 0.05 to 0.1% is used. Similarly, sulfur dioxide and sulfides, this is also permitted by PFA for food pulps, for cordials, for beverages, and dehydrated is there. And it also prevents enzymatic and non-enzymatic browning, which we mentioned in the beginning, that the browning can take place if the sugar is present and protein are present into the food is there. Then sorbic acid and sorbates is also permitted, these can be used. Nowadays the biologically derived antimicrobial niacin is one of the things which can be used for the purposes there. I mentioned that in our fruit and vegetables the fat and oil level is less, but we must know what are the antioxidants in preserving fat and oil. These are the BHA, butylated hydroxyanisole, and taurine. These are the two antioxidants which are added into as per the legal requirement, can be added for the preserving the fat and oils is there. How do they act? They prevent the auto-oxidation reaction into this. Then we come to the acidulants. Acidulants contribute a functional properties like flavoring agents, it can be buffering action, preservation, squeezing, or viscosity modifiers is there. They provide the functional properties to the food. That mostly are the organic acids as far as the food are concerned, like acetic acid, ascorbic acid, citric, lactic acid, malic, and tartaric. These are the type of there. Inorganic acid like phosphoric acid is normally used in the cola type beverages as there. They have been permitted, but with certain restrictions. So before going for using any of these things, we must check up with the legal requirements and what are the functional properties we have to take. Then the coloring agents are there. Anthocyanins is there, which gives the red, blue, and violet color. These are the natural I am mentioning. Then carotenoids are there, which gives the yellow, orange, and red color to the is there. And the sources for this is like apricot, watermelon, red guavas, papaya, yellow maize. These are the sources for giving the is there. Then there is other chlorophyll is also there, which gives the green color is there. The chlorophyll are heat sensitive, and during processing of fruit and vegetable the color is lost and it changes into the brown color. But the chlorophyll is better retained in the alkaline pH is there. So when you are preparing any food formulation, and if the color is alkaline at alkaline pH, you will be able to maintain the chlorophyll color. Now synthetic colorants are also prepared from the petrochemicals are there, and mainly there are 5 classes: azo, pyrazole, indigoid, and these are the things, the common names. They have been permitted, and the good advantage of this is they are resistance to chemical reaction, pH and heat compared. Like when you use the natural colorants, depending upon the pH and the heat, there could be some changes, but in synthetic colorants there could not be, they cannot be changed. Similarly, flavoring agents are also there. What is the flavor? Actually, it is a mix of taste and smell, and it is in the mouth when we put the food. Pain, tactile and temperature receptors are there. The flavoring is a very complex subject. Certain flavors components we have been able to identify, like menthol in peppermint, benzaldehyde in bitter almond, citral in lime pimal, amyl acetate in ripe banana. We have been able to identify it, but other things is there. We have grouped them into natural flavorings, then natural identical flavoring substances, and then the artificial flavoring substances is there. Then next we come to the sweeteners. Sweeteners, normally we are using the sucrose is used for the sweetness, for the functional properties like bulking agent and preservatives. Nowadays sucrose alternatives are nutritive and non-nutritive are there. The sorbitol, xylitol and isomaltol examples of the nutritive are there, right? And the non-nutritive sweeteners are the saccharin and saccharides are the examples of these things are there. We can also add up the miscellaneous additives like emulsifying, stabilizing, firming agents, particularly like calcium chlorides for giving the firmness to the canned foods, anti-caking agents and clarifying agents are used. Now to conclude the food constituents, we have discussed the chemistry and properties of the carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, water, enzymes, micronutrients and additives. We repeat that the chemistry part gives you the why component, why that is happening into the product, and we must know the constituents details, their properties, so that when you are preparing the food product you can control the functional properties of the food. Thank you very much.